DP microphone. Okay, that's better. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Thanks, SQL Dev DBA, for telling me I was just talking to myself. This is great, which is not helpful, but apparently this... oh, did it not work anymore? Tell me in the chat, because I can see it in my OBS actually moving correctly, so I'm hoping that it actually works. Okay, good. All right, wow, that's just terrible. Okay, well, I don't know why my DP microphone keeps on going out. I will have to upgrade my OBS because I've been putting it off, and maybe that's why it gets lost in translation. So I apologize. So there's a lot of things I said, but I'm not going to regurgitate everything. I was basically talking about Build going on right now with Fabric, Microsoft Fabric, and other things that are being announced at Build, and lots of things on Synapse and cloud stuff. So lots of fun things there to partake of. If you're not registered for Build, I think it's today and tomorrow. I think it's virtual and on site, so I think it's free to register and actually be online, so you don't have to worry about paying for anything. But there's a lot of things going on. Brent Ozar, he blogged live the keynote of Build, so that's out there on his website. But there's lots of things going on. Fun to some, not fun to others. But I'm happy to have whatever needs to happen so that I can enjoy my career. And Build is typically not SQL Server centric. Some of it they have some PowerShell, but not a whole lot. So there's not a whole lot of things that I am there. I'm in the development space as far as actively Visual Studio stuff, and so Build for me isn't necessarily what I do. But there's a lot of people that do, and so it's nice to have that. So any questions? I don't see any in PollGab, so I'm not sure if there's much to talk about except some fun things. I went to a SQL Saturday in what was formerly known as Cleveland, now is Ohio North. And I attended the SQL Saturday was in Akron, Ohio, which was a great place. If any of you ever get to Akron and want to stay in a great hotel, it's called the Blue Teak, BLU, and then Teak, TIQUE, like boutique, but it's Blue Teak. It was an old office building, is what we gathered. Maybe it was an old hotel, but it had like office doors. I mean, it just looked like an office building, had a mail slot, everything. But anyway, they remodeled it. It's a Marriott brand now, and we stayed in that hotel for a night. Have a great restaurant, piano music playing every night, but great food, and the beds were awesome. And maybe it's just because maybe it's new. I don't know when it was first remodeled, but the beds were super comfortable, and so we loved it. But SQL Saturday had some great sessions. I spoke on T-SQL and best practice and things that will help people. It was basically a behavior analysis thing on SQL, and just showing how SQL statements behaved instead of just saying, well, this is what we do is we select and we set, we do this. It was super fun. There was a lot of people there, and I'll be going back next year. It was great. The organizers did a great job. Food was great. People were great. But I went to a session on a monitoring thing, SSMS based monitoring or information tool. And Dave Bland, I'll do a shout out to Dave. Dave Bland gave a presentation. He did a fantastic job, but he's built this RDL solution, so report SSRS stuff that runs inside the custom reports part of SQL. So I know that most of you have right-clicked on a SQL server or a database and said, show me the reports, and the reports are, disk space by table, stuff like that. And he did one that has custom reports. So he has this RDL and he has a landing page and it does everything for you. Creates a database, deploys your monitoring jobs. It's a freaking awesome, cool thing. And so I got to play with it. He put it out on his blog and I got to play with it today and it was super awesome. It was really cool. And I'll be modifying some of it because there's some things he didn't have in there, like is persistent on computed columns, and there's a few columns that were missed, but for the most part, the information there is just super phenomenal. And so I'll be helping him augment it with PowerShell, basically tuning the PowerShell jobs, but as well also making sure that that you can actually see the query. So there's a piece of the report that says view the query, and click on it and it shows you the query that was run to produce this report. So I'm going to put a view PowerShell and we're going to do a little DBA tools playoff there that says if I can do it in DBA tools, you'll have a PowerShell button that says show me the PowerShell to do this in PowerShell. So it's really cool. It hasn't been named except the monitoring and reporting tool. So question by SQL Dev DBA says, I asked a question on ChatGPT on PolGab, but it seemed to disappear. Yeah, it's gone. What are your thoughts of using it to develop some scripts? Yeah, I mean, so I'll just tell you that ChatGPT, I have not used it yet because I'm not a big AI fan when it comes to technology. Mostly because a lot of people will actually ask ChatGPT or ask these AI engines a question about how to develop something, and they'll blanketly believe it. So sometimes I'm not a fan of AI ChatGPT doesn't know the schema of your database or whatever. And so I don't think I have any aversion to it for people who can read the query and read the stuff, read the scripts, and know that they aren't harmful. But AI is AI. So for me, not being an AI fan per se, I don't live and breathe by AI. I think it's great. It's great technology. The reality for you is that you may like ChatGPT and AI, but using it to develop some scripts, I heard from people like Mala and Chrissy Lemaire. She actually asked ChatGPT to do some things, or actually she used Copilot on GitHub because it's AI based too, and it worked great. She said the script was fantastic. And she may have had to do a little editing, but not a lot. She didn't have to produce it. It produced it for her. So sometimes it can actually save you a bucket load of time. Just make sure you don't blanketly believe anything. That you will go through it and make sure you do your due diligence. You just don't have to create it because ChatGPT did it. So that's great. What I don't like about ChatGPT generated something is when people use ChatGPT to generate a blog article. I think that's it's innovative and creative, but it's terrible. I think if you want something to put on your blog, you should write it. That's my opinion. Again, it's Ask Me Anything. I didn't say my answers were gospel truth. It's just, that's my opinion. I think that AI can assist with a lot of things, identification of videos of photos and other things like that. But sometimes you just gotta balance the two, right? It's not one or the other, it's the balance. You use your brains, let ChatGPT do the grunt work of getting you a framework, and then you use it. And so it's great. So long answer to a short question. ChatGPT is all the buzz. People love it, and that's okay. It'll only get better. I'm just careful about putting things into ChatGPT like, hey, can you fix this query? Or can you fix this stuff and its IP of a company? I'm not putting that in ChatGPT. I don't know what it does with it. It could keep it and store it and use it for other things and it ends up in somebody else's lap. No, thanks. I'll pass. But creating things from scratch, and hopefully people are judicious when they put things in that little bucket. But great question. AI's not going away. Yeah, better. Yeah, it's better at chopping for sure. And when it can do the heavy lifting that you could have done yourself, but it can do it faster, sometimes you leverage that to get more done. It's no different than PowerShell. When you want to automate, you can work hard. You can. but sometimes it's not necessary either. It's not. Yeah, yeah, and yes, it's going nowhere near my work computer, and I'm the same thing. No way, for no way. You never once you lose control. It's kind of like putting a photo out online. If you leave it online for long enough, it's out of your control. Where it went, you have no idea. And with ChatGPT, it's the same thing. You put stuff in that little bucket, and you really don't know where that bucket went. And you have to be willing to let it go and just be someone else's, because that's what happens. You just don't know. So yeah, I'm with you, SQL Dev DBA. I'm totally with you. Same sentiment. But isn't it great we have that kind of a world we have before us, that technology can do so much? Did you hear that, Google and other companies are working to invest in building a quantum computer, a really fast quantum computer that doesn't use binary, no ones and zeros anymore. It's using other mechanisms to be super faster. Well, I bet the NSA is going to love that. But there's lots of people interested in faster computing. And is it possible today? Hey, I believe that anything's possible. I mean, nowadays, I don't even let people say, is it possible to? It's like, stop. I think it's possible. Anything's possible. Now, how long it will take to do it, what money it will take to do it, what resource it will take to do it, I can't tell you that. But is it possible? Absolutely. There's so many things that we used to think were impossible, but they are so possible now that you don't get to ask or have to ask, can you do it? Yep. It'll take me 5 years, but I can do it. There's technology enough to do it. Or it'll take me 2 days, or somebody asks you to write a script and you're like, it's totally possible to do that. Let's get it done. And 2 minutes later, you're done. Why not? It's possible. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why and why not. But that's the beauty of computers, is that they're always going to improve. Someone's going to find a reason to use a faster quantum computer instead of a normal. Does that mean that hackers are going to get more sophisticated and they're going to do more brute force attacks on passwords? Try to stop them. The only way you're going to stop them is by having a really long password and complex enough, right? I mean, if you've ever went out with passwords, and then there's multi-factor, so it doesn't matter. You can have a really complex password like a hardware key or something, and brute force is not going to solve it. Number one, they don't know the length. Number two, one more character on the length of your 16-bit password is going to be huge. And one more character will add that many more days of brute force, because it does. That's the way it works. And so when you think about a really long password that's, 25, 30 characters, good luck brute force in that one. So computing is going to get better, and with all the good that comes from computing, there will always come the adverse side of things that will just try to get money for free or do things that you don't want them to do. So just keep in mind that you're part of it. They don't just get to break your password because they have faster computers. That's not how it works, really. Not really. So don't be afraid. Just embrace the good and don't let it, do bad things to you. Any other questions that come up in your mind? SQL, PowerShell, life in general? SQL Dev DBA is my faithful group member. And I apologize. I didn't apologize up front. Last week, this appointment just kind of went right by. I mean, I had some things go on during that time, so I had to take care of them. But I got to 5 o'clock and I went, holy crap, I did not do my AMA. So I apologize. I meant to be here. It's just not on the right calendar for me to have a reminder to beep me and tell me I have an appointment. So today I had to make sure that we weren't missing that piece. That was a good thing not to miss. I don't want to have people show up and have me not be there so they don't get answers. But like I said, we're a little light right now, and that's fine. We're getting all of the marketing set up so that we can at least have people know that it's here and they can come on and talk and do the things that we need to. But it's been fun to do it every week. Things are getting better. I'm learning a lot more of how to do the technology stuff that's fun. Do you have any tips on trying to script out logins that use AD? For example, login-Power BI uses Azure AD. How I have to manually call it every time I want to work with Power BI commandlets. So there is a well, most of the manually call it every time I want to work with Power BI commandlets, mostly that's because all of the Azure AD stuff uses tokens. And so when you log in, connect to Azure ADB or, or using the commandlets to get your Azure AD token, there really isn't a way to store a token that I know of that would let you do it. I know that there's ways to automate it. I just haven't done a whole lot of automation that way. It's always been interactive, but I have not successfully found a way to do the connection to Azure AD without connecting to Azure AD. So I have connected successfully to Office 365 or M365 with the commandlets, but that takes a username and password, and in O365 for that login you have to turn off MFA and stuff like that. So there's ways to do a secure login, but and I do it non-interactively. So I do have ways to manage Office, or Exchange online without having to do it interactively. But once the Azure AD comes in, I have not found a good way to run a process that doesn't log in. And even then, if I had a login that even if I had the username and password stored, MFA is the issue. That's absolutely the issue. So there's ways to have an application login that doesn't do MFA. So there's a way to register an application inside Azure AD, and that's how you do it. You actually use an application login that doesn't require MFA. That's how you do it non-interactively, is have a username, password. You'd encrypt it. The login that created the encrypted password can read the encrypted password. So if you had a scheduled task or a job, once it's logged into as that user, it can decrypt that password, use it to authenticate, because it's an app login. So it's a real funky little word or something that's obscure. And then you have a password for that. And once you've registered that application in the applications for Azure AD, you can use that application password to get in non-interactively, because it doesn't require MFA, because it's an app password. So that's how you do it, disregarding MFA. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go out and turn off MFA for your main account. Don't think that's a great idea. But yeah, that's what you do. You just create an application password, and so you'll have a username and a password, and they don't have MFA. So that's what you're running into. That's why it's required to get a token interactively, and then everything works. You can run your scripts, you can run your jobs, you can run whatever, and you're good, but not until you get past the MFA part. But yeah, the Azure Cost Analysis API. There's a lot of APIs now, but that's what you do, is you have an account with no MFA, and then you can non-interactively log in. That's what I do. Cool beans. Thank you very much, SQL Dev DBA. It's been a great AMA. We've had some things we talked about, and hopefully I will have more content next week. I'm just going to start researching what happened at Build and have some questions already posed for the AMA for next week. I just didn't have a chance this week to do pre-canned questions for AMA. So appreciate your time. And we will end, just 1 minute prior to the end. But thank you very much for attending. And hopefully, if you're watching this after it's recorded, please follow and subscribe to this, or follow at least to this thing. We have 36 followers right now, and I'd love to get to 50 if I can. So if you have friends that are interested in this content, please share. I'm DBADuck everywhere on the web. So from DBADuck here in the great state of Utah, we will say adieu. Have a great day.